couple weeks ago, I put out a video titled "The First Key to Making Great Films," the intro. In that, I broke down into 6 points how to make good intros. And for the last couple weeks, I've been working on explaining the first of those keys, setting up your characters. Today, I'll be using it in an example of a movie, this movie being that of Troy. I'll be showing that how it perfectly sets up the character of Achilles, and it really, by the end of this scene, you understand who Achilles is, what's his motives, all you need to know for going on through the whole movie, and it does a really good job of not wavering. So without further ado, let's jump in by starting out by just looking over the scene.
Perhaps we should have our war tomorrow when you're better rested. I should have you whipped for your impudence.
Perhaps you should fight him.
Achilles. Achilles. Look at the men's faces. You can save hundreds of them. You can end this war with a swing of your sword. Think how many songs they'll sing in your honor. Let them go home to their wives.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight?
Of all the warlords loved by the gods, I hate him the most.
We need him, my king.
For now. Is there no one else? Is there no one else? Who are you, soldier?
Achilles, son of Peleus.
Achilles. I'll remember the name. The ruler of Thessaly carries this scepter. Give it to your king.
He's not my king.
Okay, so what can we learn from this scene? Let's start out by the very opening of the movie. Now, I didn't show it in the clip I showed, but it begins with two kings are at war with each other, and they decided that instead of allowing all their men to die in this battle, they're just going to send out their two best warriors, and whoever wins claims the land. Pretty simple. The one king sends out this big hunk of a man, and the other one sends out Achilles, and that's where this clip starts out with. Okay, so from the very opening shot, we saw that all the soldiers highly praise Achilles. So that clearly shows that this is a man of great stature. This is a man who a lot of warriors respect because he really can get the job done. So you're really getting this impression of that this is a big guy. He's a powerful warrior. Okay, as we continue, we see how calm he is with his demeanor going into this. But wait, this is when a big thing comes in. The moment that Agamemnon tries to insult him, tries to mock him, he decides, well, it's not worth fighting, right? This is perfectly setting up what's going to happen later on in the movie with Agamemnon doing this again and it causing the whole Trojan War to go off kilter because of that. But in this one scene, we can see that he has a lot of pride. And when people try to push on his pride, he's very quick to be like, well, then do it yourself. He's a very good warrior. He's a perfect example of, if someone who couldn't do something start mocking you and thinking they can push you around when you can do it, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I see no reason why I need to follow you when it comes to this. I don't see a reason why I need to listen to your orders. I'm holding the power card here. I'm the one who has the ability, not you. And as you see, what he said was, it would be a nice day when kings would fight their own battles. But then we come to the next part. Nestor talks to him, says, look at the warriors. Look at how many lives you can save this day. Look at these people who can go home to their families. And then he says, imagine how many songs they can write about you. Okay, so this is a big thing. This is actually setting up the whole movie. I will eventually talk about the whole movie because this whole thing is setting up a whole 3-hour movie where it's this theme going along of being remembered and all that. But for right now, let's just talk about this scene. So what can we learn from this one scene? It's going to step more in the future, but from this one scene, we can figure out one thing. That Achilles is very prideful, and that Achilles is very much about his own honor. Imagine the thing that kicked him off. Yeah, maybe he might have been a little bit tempted by, oh yeah, I can save all these people, but it's not because of saving these people's lives. It's about how he's the one who can do it. He's all about his own pride. That's why when Agamemnon made that comment, he was so quick to do, like, I'm just leave again, because he's like, well, if I'm not going to get the glory from this, then why should I do it? That's the whole thing about him, is he's all about glory. You can tell from the scene that he's all about his own glory. He loves himself. He's all about self, which makes for like a terrible character, but this does a great job with setting up how your character should not be perfect in the beginning, right? People like Achilles, by the end of the movie, he's a completely different person than in the beginning, right? When you see other movies, where you see characters in the beginning of the movie are very self-centered, very onto themselves, and by the end of the movie, they choose to give up their life. They choose to do something for others instead of themselves. You even see this with Iron Man in the whole MCU. Over the years, he's very prideful, he's very full of himself, and by the end of the series, you know what happens. This is what we can look from that one moment, is that he is very much full of himself. He's very much self-motivated by honor, his own glory. That's what he's motivated by. Okay, so then we come to the whole part where he's like, he mocks at Agamemnon.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight?
And Agamemnon says,
Of all the warlords loved by the gods, I hate him the most.
Now Agamemnon, for this whole movie, Agamemnon is a terrible character. You root for Achilles more than Agamemnon, because he's just a awful guy who's trying to take advantage of people, and like, it's... You have to see the whole movie, but the point is, you're coming in with two hot-headed people. Achilles filled with his own glory, and Agamemnon being the one with the power, because he's the king. He has the power, but he doesn't have the strength that Achilles has. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part of this. That is when he actually fights. Okay, where can we learn from this one moment, right? We can learn that we set up how powerful this character is. Achilles is a very powerful character. He's very strong. He's very full of himself. This big, strong guy cannot match at all with Achilles. But you can also see, based on, I talked about it a little bit before, but you can really see how calm he is when going into this fight, right? This big guy that most people would be like hiding in fear because he's the Goliath of that army. He's the big guy. And Achilles just goes in and just casually skips up to him and kills him. It's very simple as that. He just simply kills the guy like it's nothing. Then he goes up to the rest of the army and says,
Is there no one else? Is there no one else?
is there no one else? Is there no one else? He's so filled with his own ego that he wants to put other people down. This warrior, this guy he just killed, he's just like, is that the only worm you can send at me? This simple thing I can just throw to the dust, is that the best you can? He acts like he's like the dog when you throw some meat at him and he rips it apart. And he's like, is that all the meat you have for me? That's how much he thinks. He doesn't think of it else. He thinks of people in the fact of war. Now later on, you're gonna see there's one character that he actually likes. He actually truly cares about. And he's never gonna put aside. So he doesn't hate everyone, but he's so full of himself that he has a hard time seeing the importance of others, right? And then after that, what can we learn, right? He says, of course, to the other king, Agamemnon is not my king. So clearly he's probably something like a mercenary or something that he fights for himself. Again, he fights for his own glory. That's the only reason why he goes into battles, is that he fights for his own glory. He's a cool character, he's fun to watch, but he's coming with this flaw of being so full of himself. So let's quickly talk about that, right? So for this video, I've been talking about how prideful Achilles is, and how we really see that in the opening scene, how prideful this guy is. But what can we learn about making movies that, because doesn't this fall into a weird category of not with something you don't want to do? You don't want to make your characters unlikable, right? And as I was talking about in that previous video, it's not about making your characters likable, it's about making your characters relatable. He's a very relatable character. You can understand where he's coming from. But not just that, you can also learn from this on the importance of sometimes you need to make sure your characters are flawed. They need to be able to get over these flaws. If they start out perfect, no one's gonna watch a movie about a person that's perfect. This is a problem that I'm running into a lot of modern movies. I have heard this complaint a lot with the new Mulan movie, how it opens with the main character just being good, perfect at martial arts. And the problem with doing that is that it says this character did not have to grow in the movie. This character started out perfect and is going to end out perfect. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch a character that's perfect. I want to watch a character that's flawed and have to learn to get over their flawedness. I want to watch a character that has to learn. What's great about watching movies like Troy is that you start out with this character that is very much fun to watch. It's not like he's not fun to watch. It's that you can tell that he's very much flawed. He's very much full of himself. But you want to root for this character anyways. And not just that, but by the end of the movie, you want to continue watching because by the end of the movie, he's a completely different character. But not in the way that it doesn't make sense why you read this character, but in the way that he truly has changed. He is not full of himself anymore. He thinks about others. This is also a big thing. Again, later on, hopefully one day I will be able to talk about the Iliad and how great the Iliad is. But for right now, I'm just going to talk about how at the end of the Iliad, For anyone who haven't read the Iliad and really wants to read it before knowing this, you can just skip past this moment. Basically, in the Iliad, what happens, at the end of the movie, Achilles gives up his pride, he gives up his anger, he gives up all that, and gives back the body of Hector to his father, so that he could go for the proper burial. This has been set up in the whole book, and exactly, let's just go over, like, what's the first line of the book? That is, O sing, O goddesses, or O sing, O muses, of the anger of son of Peleus, Achilles. Right? You start out by saying this book is about the anger of Achilles, and by the end of the book, the anger of Achilles is being dropped out of love for a father. You see the growth in this character. So, back onto the movie, right? So, almost the same thing can be said about this movie as well. The character of Achilles starts out as a very prideful person, and through the whole movie you see how prideful he is, how full of himself is. The only reason why he wants to go to the Trojan War in this movie is because of that he knows of the glory he can come. Everyone knows of Achilles. Everyone knows of Achilles' heel. Everyone, you get the point. Everyone knows who Achilles is, and it's because he decided to go to that war. There's a choice he makes in the movie and in the book. Of his mother says, "I just want you to know that if you go to this war, you are going to die at the war. You're not going to make it back home safely, or you could stay home, raise a family, have kids, all that kind of stuff, but you won't get the glory that comes out of going to this war." And he's just like, I want the glory, I'm going to war. And that's what he does. He chooses to die so that he can have glory over having a simple life of having a family. He could have raised kids, he could have had like a good life, but he wouldn't have had, at the end of his life, he wouldn't have had generations and thousands of years later, people still talking about the anger of Achilles. Oh, how great Achilles was, how he was beloved by the gods. People would have forgotten him. How many people remember Agamemnon? How many people remember people like that? They remember, and this is actually the very end of the movie. The very ending says this.
Men rise and fall like the winter wheat, but these names will never die. Let them say, I lived in the time of Hector, breaker of horses. Let them say, I lived in the time of Achilles.
Because of those are the people that we remembered. Not Agamemnon, not those great kings, but the people who inspired these stories, the people who actually fought the battles. That's who is going to be remembered. Not the kings who want their names carved in stone, but the people who worthily gets their names carved in stone. The people who chose to fight for what they believed in. Or in Achilles' sake, for the pride. He actually dies in the end of the movie because of his love. And it's really shows a growth in the character. So this is the very opening of Troy, and what we can learn from it. Okay, so in conclusion, so we talked about in this video the opening of Troy and how it really sets up the character of Achilles. It really sets up who Achilles is, how he ticks, what is it that causes him to want to go to war? What is it that causes him to want to fight? Is he a okay warrior, or is he really, really good? You can see that he's a really good warrior who, the problem is he's overly cocky about how good he is. He strides into war way too cocky because he believes in himself too much. So, again, as I talked about before, we can learn from this about the importance of having relatable characters, but not just that, but also having characters that are flawed, so that by the end of your movie, you can have characters that you want to root for, that you want to be like, I want to go back and watch that again. I want to be able to see these characters again. I don't want to watch a movie where nothing happens by the end. where the characters are the same characters. You could watch the first scene and the last scene, and you'd be like, that seems like the same character. That's not a good story. A good story is where you see through the whole movie a growth in the character. So let's put that down as one of the big keys of setting up your characters. Is that of, you want, as I talked about in the last movie, you want to be, you don't want to put everything outright. This movie said the same thing, where it doesn't say outright, Achilles is very prideful. It hints at it, but it allows you to be the one to discover, and actually just shows. Show, don't tell, right? Show, don't tell. So, and then the second one we learned from this one is making relatable characters. Making characters that you want to root for, and making characters that making characters that are flawed enough that they can actually grow in the movie. So, if you want to see more videos like this, I will continue making videos like this. This is only the beginning of the process. We're going to be going through a lot more. And it's going to be an enjoyable time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I enjoyed making it. The moment I was trying to figure out what movie to use as an example of setting up your character, and then suddenly this movie clicked in my head. And I'm like, oh my goodness, why didn't I think of this before? Because it's such a good example of how to set up your character. I will probably use this as an example of how to set up other characters as well, because there's some other characters in this movie that do a great job setting up. But this is the main character that the very opening moment of this movie, you really see the setup of this character. So, if this is a video, if you like this video, again, like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that we can make more videos like this, because it was a blast making this video. It's going to be a blast to make more videos like this, but I really need to be able to have more feedback. We need to be able to reach out to more people. As I've said before, we want to be able to spark creative minds. We want to be able to bring back a renewal in actually good movies and books. We want to be able to help people. We want to help people who are afraid to step out and do something creative because they're just told that they need to do an office job, that they need to do something like that. Allowing them to step out and say, yes, I can do something creative. I would love to be able to hear of a book or a movie that was made, and they were like, yeah, I was inspired by this channel to help with some of my parts of my movie. I'll be like, so happy to hear that, not because I'm wanting it for my own glory, but because I want to help. I'm very strong about the importance of helping others, and I'm really strong about the importance of making good movies. I'm getting really super annoyed about nowadays and how Hollywood is taking a leisurely time with their movies. They just casually make movies that people want to see. You only have a certain amount of good writers now. You only have a certain amount of people who actually want to take this as a passion. Most people are doing it just for the money. And money is good sometimes. But it's not the only thing that goes into this. So, again, thank you for watching this video. Share with your friends. Let's spark more creative minds. This has been the Movie Night Reviewer, Peter Wary, signing off.